Welcome, people of the World Wide Web, and it's another movie review. I know another. I'm getting into a week now. Been going to cinema quite a lot. There are quite a few good films coming out. So, what do we have for you? We have Scream 6. So, a lot to talk about this. Spoilers will be left to the end. So, where do we start? So, I wanted to start on expectations. So, I watched 5. Weren't really too sold on 5. There were a lot of ups and downs, in my opinion. If you're watching 6, I assume you've watched 5, but I won't give anything away towards 5. There was just some, and I'll get into this there. There's just a Ghostface. He does seem to be a little bit immortal sometimes, or he seems quite hard, and I like that to be a representation of who's playing him and stuff. And in 5, there was just one scene where the person we knew who at the end, who was Ghostface, manhandled another character, and that would never happen in real life. And because it was quite a climactic, or it was quite a pivotal point in that film, I that really did turn me off a little bit of the last film. But anyway, so this is for my mate Tim, so he really wouldn't want me to view it, so this is mainly for you, mate, and anyone else who enjoyed it. But yeah, so I watched the first trailer, wasn't too big on it. I was like, oh, it's a new Ghostface. Obviously, I've seen all 5. I can't remember most of them. I can remember 5. I can remember the 5th one, because obviously it was last year. But I was like, okay, yeah, we shall see how it goes. But then the second trailer hit. Now, I don't normally watch the second trailer. I only try and watch the first one if possible, trying to keep away from spoilers, but I've been to the cinema quite a lot and it kept coming up, so I couldn't really avoid it. And the second trailer is so much better than the first one, where he's coming into the shop, where he stabs the people, where he runs around with the shotgun and stuff. And this, to me, started to reveal that they obviously were thinking a little bit broader now. You know, they've done 5 films, how can we go, where can we go with this, blah, 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 blah. And I really like that. That trailer literally sold it. Like, I really wanted to go see this film, so this is why it's only been out. It was only out a day. I think it was the second day it was out, and I went to see it. Super screen. So it wasn't really packed, but I say maybe because there's a cost involved, but who knows. So yeah, so anyone doesn't know, obviously this follows on directly from 5. It's like a year later. Obviously the 2 girls who are, the main one is the daughter of Billy, who was the first killer from 1. Obviously it was 1996, if you've not seen that. I can't really help you anywhere there, because it's almost 30 years. So yeah, so they get ravaged by some killers who are doing a video, and they survive, they move on with their life. But obviously this is where obviously things haven't gone away, social media and everything, their lives are all over it. And because she is the daughter, I think there's a lot of rumours and stuff that she was the killer. Anyway, a whole lot of string of kills start coming up, and it all starts linking to events and previous characters. Gonna have to put the spoiler alert here now, because there is a lot to cover and a lot of going back and forth with the film. So I would say I did like the film, and I do recommend watching it if you're up to this point. Yeah, I will go more into it now. So spoiler alert. Hopefully I'll put the label on. So yeah. So as the story goes, they started in a very, very different direction here. I like this. So you have the typical girl, she was in a bar, she's talking to somebody, and then it turns into be Ghostface, and then she gets killed. We've seen it all happens, but it doesn't stop there. You can hear the person's voice, so you know the actor is, and they're not in it long, so you don't have to worry about that. But then they reveal themselves, and then they go about the rest of their evening interacting with several of the cast members who are in this film. And to me, I was like, oh, is that, you know, at first I was like, have they just revealed the killer, and then we're going to spend the whole time of where they're not going to know who it is? And to be honest, if they did make more, I quite like that as well. I quite like them knowing who the killer is, and maybe having a very clever way of how they hide that person within stuff, you know, because we're always waiting for that big climactic reveal at the end of it, but we very much spin it on its head. You know, if you knew about who that person was, and you know, and you definitely, then they would kind of, you could see focal points in the crowd and background where they were doing stuff. I think that you know, that might be good. But anyway, that doesn't happen. So this person then goes home after killing this girl who's their teacher, and I was like, that was one of the few little bits that didn't hit for me. Of like, he killed his teacher. He was speaking with his normal voice before he went, so surely she would have recognised his voice. Anyway, he goes home, puts his mask in his cupboard, and there's obviously a shrine, and then you can see he's asking where his roommate is, and they seem to be like buddy collectors. Anyway, he then gets a phone call and thinks it's from his roommate, and it seems to be Ghostface. Leads him up to opening the fridge, and his dismembered friend is in there, and then he gets stabbed by, as we then know, the Ghostface of this film. Basically, they were these two are wannabes and wanting to finish off Richie's film from 5, and that does play into it. So all this happens, obviously, the Ghostface now has like a motive and a method. So every killing, a previous mask worn by any of the bad guys is then left at the crime scenes, and other stuff, evidence is either taken or evidence is planted at these locations to implicate people, mainly the main girl. And then you go through, you have obviously the main cast of four survivors from the last film. Then you have like a girlfriend and a best friend who are kind of in there, and Gail Weathers turns up. She did on that I am a little bit fed up of Gail Weathers. Maybe that's just me. You know, Neve Campbell obviously doesn't return, and then you have Hayden Panettiere, a character from the previous one. It's been so long since I've seen that film that I didn't even kind of gauge. She's an FBI agent, and she doesn't do too much. But anyway, so it goes through then a set of events where basically this Ghostface is, because it's in New York, it's out of Woodsboro. Let me know, but he or she or them or whatever goes crazy, and I quite like this. They amped it up. It was more bloody, it was more gutsy. You know, they get their roommate killed when they're in the other room, and her fuck buddy, I would say, pardon my French if you're not. And the stuff, you know, there are no holds bar. He, she, or it, or I'll just call it Ghostface. Ghostface does go crazy in this. Then obviously it follows on to, like, you've seen the shop where you go, and this is where it's like, oh my god, this is not a superhuman, but this is another level Ghostface, and I like this, the fact they introduce guns and stuff like that. But unfortunately, that doesn't. I suppose it does carry on through part of the film. But anyway, people start dying. The list starts dwindling down. And then earlier on, Gail finds that the two lads that died in the beginning, they have like this shrine, which you see in the trailer anyway. So they plan a trap, and then it all goes sour. And this is when the real killers are revealed. And to me, I'll say spoiler, this is where the film let me down a little bit. I had so much promise up to this point, and then I got a little bored at the end. And the reveal, it made sense. I can see why they did it. It links in with the previous. But I wanted something different, and I'm going to go on to that a little bit later, because they do mention stuff. So anyway, as I said, spoiler alert, you've already been watching a few minutes. Richie, the guy who died in one, this is his family. This is his dad, his daughter, and his brother. So there are 3 Ghostfaces. This is why he, she, it gets everywhere. You know, I did think that was really good. The fact that they kept misdirecting stuff, and the fact of one of the girls, who is it? She is the roommate, and suppose he got killed, and obviously her dad's a cop, and this is all covered up. And I did think that was good, because constantly you're thinking, is it that person? And then this happens, and you're like, well, that person isn't there, and then that person, and because you don't know it's 3 people, they do that very well, even with the dad explaining that they're Richie's family. This is where it got, his dad's a cop, and he supposedly encourages things, and I just find it really weird that you would have a police officer who would have some sort of moral compass, I suspect. I mean, I'm not, you know, and his son wants to go around killing people, and you support the habit, and you support the habit of all your family. It's a bit screwed up that they would all be inclined to go with that. But it is what it is. There's a fight. Gail gets stabbed. She still managed to survive. Mindy, one of the friends from the first one, she survives. And the other lad, I can't remember his name, he managed to survive. So the foursome, they do have a funny nickname, which I did quite like and quite catchy. The Core Four, that's what he calls it. The Core Four, which I did quite like, these characters. Ghostface, how he was portrayed very early on and stuff. And then when you realise who they are, don't necessarily have the athletic ability that I thought they would have, or how they handle stuff or manhandle people, but you don't know which one it is. Again, maybe that was a little let down, and maybe I had high expectations for this film, but by the by. So things are going on, and and obviously they all kind of get killed, and Hayden Panettiere gets stabbed, and she manages to survive as well, and the girls survive, and then they go off kind of into sunset. You do have Billy kind of flick up, and I did like that. So Billy's daughter, the eldest gun, she keeps seeing flickers of Billy like she did in 5, and I quite like that. That, for me, you didn't need to have Hayden Panettiere or even Garner having that link to the previous ones, even though she may be a bit nuts. We don't know. Maybe that's like we'll leave there. But yeah, so it was a good film. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 here, and this is before I go into my little side things. You know, I thought it was good. Maybe I had high expectations. It was could have been a bit better. You know, obviously Neve Campbell not returning. To be honest, the original characters don't mind him turning a bit like I've seen Creed. It's good to pass the torch of new characters and fresh ideas, and the fact they've taken it out of New York and amped up Ghostface, and that I thought actually worked really, really well. I say maybe it was a bit shame some of the stuff was shown in the trailer too much. But by the by, so that's how I thought it. Now this comes on side story when they're talking about the bad guys, and when they're talking about like how people are killed, and maybe there is a theory that Stu, so this is Matthew Lilliard's character from the first film, he got he got stabbed by Billy, and he got a TV dropped in his head, and they say there's a running rumour that he survived. Now, to me, he should have been the bad guy in this. This is because I thought, well, I can't just say I don't really like the ending because it was linked to, because it goes for the same one. I reckon that what they should have done is have Matthew Lilliard's character Stu from the first film. He did survive. Now he could have had 1 or 2 kids, and they could have grown and grown up and been these characters. I would have expected to maybe be like a bit more muscly, maybe like into like parkour and stuff like this, or weightlifting, and that's why they are more manhandling, and good with the weapons and stuff like this. And it could have been that all of these characters you never really saw. You could have had them flick up in crowds and stuff, but never really needed to know. And obviously when it's the reveal, they're actually not any of the main characters, because they do theorise in this like they've done in the previous ones. Like there is a kind of, there are rules to these sort of films and slashers and everything. And to be honest, bringing someone that you thought was dead back, and he's had kids and they come along, because obviously he got stabbed by Billy, and he could have felt like jilted by that. Like obviously because he kind of stabbed him wrong and he was bleeding too much before he had the telly put on his head. I mean, and I don't know how reliable smashing something like telly on the head would actually kill somebody rather than maybe concuss them. Who knows? That is where, I mean, if that had been the final reveal of this film, I would have been, oh my god, this is like an 8 at least. You never saw it come in. Half these characters weren't on screen, and it just ties it all up. I mean, they're always going to terrorise, and people are going to die. The main heroine's always going to survive. It kind of is the same guy. And that's why I say Gail gets stabbed, but she still survives. And I was like, oh, really? You could have... Dewey's not there. Neve's not returning because of money and stuff. Just spin off Gail Weathers, and then you kind of you can say if they do a 7, which I think it's quite popular, it's more likely it's going to get another one. But that was my rant. That's where I think they should go. I thought it would have been brilliant. The fact that obviously if Matthew Lilliard had agreed to return, he wouldn't have had to feel much. No one could have said anything, and it would have been absolutely, oh my god, no one would have seen that coming. But it is what it is. I say it's 6. It's good. It's definitely worth a good film. It definitely rewrites and wipes away a lot of the rubbish from 5, and has sparked a new interest in the franchise. So they did that well. I've seen reviews. People seem to like it a lot better than me. I say maybe my expectations were too high, and that's why I've rated it low. I just wanted. And I didn't guess the ending. I didn't guess who they were, and it did keep me guessing. I did have the cop I did suspect at one time in the door. I was like, in the rule, I have this one rule when I'm with, if you don't see physically somebody dead in the body, then they're not dead. And I did think of that, but because they had so many misdirections and there was 3 killers, that it threw you off, and you weren't expecting that, so that's why. But that's fine. That was done good, as I say. To me, it is what it is. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this movie review a little longer than that. Obviously, I've been Cypher Sigmund. I'll see you next one.